Hello, everybody. Welcome back to TCPalm's coverage of the August 18th primary election. I'm columnist Gil Smart. This is the TCPalm editorial board interview with candidates for Stuart City Commission Group 3. I'm joined today by fellow editorial board member Larry Reisman and our candidates, incumbent Merritt Matheson and challenger Edward Galante. I'll lead the questioning and open it up to other board members at the end. Kelly Rogers will be directing the video coverage. And if we get questions from our social media audience, we might decide to pose one or two of those at the end of the session. Thanks to our candidates for streamlining this process by completing questionnaires ahead of time. The board members have reviewed them. You can review them by going to tcpalm.com/elections. You'll find them, the questionnaires there, along with other stories, videos, and information about the August 18th election. In addition, at the conclusion of this interview, the editorial board members will discuss possibly writing an editorial to recommend a candidate in this race. We've got several questions we're going to go over, and we might end up having more of a conversation than a simple Q&A. Our goal is to be completed in about 45 minutes to an hour, and because of our time constraints, I'm going to ask the candidates to keep their answers concise and be respectful of others. We will start with the challenger, Mr. Galante. Give us a little bit of your background. Who are you? And why are you running for the Stuart City Commission?
Well, who I am is 45-year lawyer, former federal prosecutor, did criminal as well as environmental prosecution out of the Southern District of Florida. In fact, that's how I found Stuart. I came up here to do some environmental prosecution, and I love the area. Although then Stuart was not anything like it is today, but you could see the beauty of it. River was a lot cleaner too. But I moved up here, raised a family here. My son is a police officer. My daughter works here, lives here, owns a home here. I have a granddaughter. In fact, tonight after we finish this up, I'll be picking her up to take her out on a date. We've been doing that since she's 2. She's 7.5. And there isn't a restaurateur in all of downtown Stuart that doesn't know by her first name, because we were in all the various stores every Wednesday. I've been in Stuart practicing law for 38 years. I've owned businesses. I've built buildings under the CRA on Camden, and sold that building years back while the market boom was going pretty well. And I had the beautiful opportunity to watch Stuart turn into what it is because of people like Joan Jefferson and others who had a vision to put things together and had a view of what Stuart should look like 20, 30 years from now. And God bless them, it does. And as I practice law, and I do a very active practice, I'm still in court a lot, I have the same feeling for Stuart, more so, and I want to invest time in Stuart and make Stuart better. And as one of the things I wrote in my reply to you is that I would like to see Stuart 2040. Let's have a vision, because right now the way things are going, we're just doing like plopping big things where they shouldn't be. They're out. I don't think they're in character with what is Stuart. I don't think a 4-story building that has 280 units or 324 units in it next to or in the middle of a single family development is really keeping in line with Stuart. I know there are other demands that are going on right now, but there's got to be a way to work our way through those things. And I just think I have a bachelor's degree in business. I have a master's degree in business. I have a JD, so I can read law. I can read business, financials. I can do a whole lot of different things, and I've spent my entire life doing that. So why not now that my family's grown and I have more time, invest that time in the city that I've come to love?
Okay, very good. Merritt Matheson, the incumbent. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for re-election.
All right. Hi, I'm Merritt Matheson. I'm a multi-generational Florida native. My parents moved up here from Miami, following in the early footsteps of my great uncle, Bill Matheson, who was an early settler of Palm City. I decided to get involved because I, too, am raising a family here in my hometown. You know, I have a true love and passion for the outdoors, and I've seen the destruction of our waterways over my entire lifetime, and I wanted the city to do more and speak up more about it. It killed me in 2018 when I couldn't take my daughter out on the water. And so I got heavily involved in the city, served on the Lpa Board for almost a year. Before that, I was at every commission meeting, learning the issues and discussing with friends and residents what could be done and how it could be different. I think I've proven myself over my 2 years in office. My promise was that I would speak up more year round about our waterways. And I believe going forward, we can strike a true balance between environmental sustainability, job creation, housing, and, the need for businesses here to succeed. I'm very open to feedback and comments with all residents, and I look at each issue with an open mind and heart. And I have a strong love and passion to continue to do that and help work with city residents to bring Stuart into the future.
Okay, very good. Thanks. We're going to stick with Merritt for the next question here. Even before COVID-19, Stuart faced a lot of challenges, from water quality problems, which you just mentioned, to questions about development. Now with the virus, you've had the impact on business. You've had the bridge closures. It's really like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse have arrived here in Stuart. What, in your opinion, is the single biggest challenge facing the city right now, and what needs to be done about it?
The single biggest challenge, that Stuart has an effect on is still going to be water quality in the river. The bridge is a major issue. We've got great people from FDOT working on that, and that has a timetable and a date. And, that's something that city staff is in constant communication with FDOT on that process. But that being said, water quality still trumps that in every aspect. And then COVID-19, of course, we're under a state of emergency. Martin County's under a state of emergency. And, following that, that's a global pandemic that I wish I knew the answer to. I'll be flat. I ask everyone if they do. This is something that Mother Nature created, and there's no solution right now. And all elected officials have to make tough decisions. But Stuart has to keep in mind that when we are under a state of emergency, we are to take and work with Martin County and follow their lead under the integrated command system. And that's what Stuart has been doing. I'm thankful of the decisions they've been making. They had to make some tough ones on the mask call, but overall, elected officials are in charge of health and human safety. And, such issues as that mask, no one wants someone higher up like the governor to shut our economy down. But again, the long-term overarching issue still has to be our river and our water quality and our environment.
Okay, thanks, Merritt. Mr. Galante, a lot of problems out there. What's Stuart's biggest one, and what do we do about it?
The river. Not to appreciate how important the river is to our economics, to the value of real estate, to the quality of life that we have or have come to enjoy over the years. More than a century, actually. The river. But I think we have to cooperate with federal authorities. I think we have to cooperate with state authorities. We've got a governor that's basically thrown out the old South Florida Water Management District, put new people in who have their heart, I think, in the right place. And we can work with them, should work with them. We have a great congressman who's been out there kicking the cores behind when necessary. He's been getting their attention, and that's been helping us a great deal. But we are affected now by COVID. We're affected by the bridge, and it's going to have a horrible economic impact on our community. I think over a period of time, you're going to see an awful lot of foreclosures. You're going to see, as I understand downtown, and I'm downtown a lot because my office is in the middle of downtown. We're losing 2 or 3 of the storefronts that have been open for years simply because they cannot sustain themselves. Now, I can't suggest, for instance, that the city go out and start writing checks to them. But on the other hand, perhaps the city has the resources to go out and find things that might be available, grants that might be available, and help them with that so that maybe they can stay in business and work with them in any way we can so that we don't lose the employment, we don't lose the economics, we don't lose the sales tax. There's just a whole lot of things to come together in this, and it's important for us to keep an eye on all of them and not to neglect any of them. And as I said, the river, that's almost a foregone conclusion. If you don't pay attention to that, there is no Stuart. So I agree that that's our main issue and always will be our main issue until they start draining the water south. Until that time, we've got garbage coming out of Lake Okeechobee, and I don't care what other people say about it, it is garbage, and we need to protect ourselves. But as it relates to our economic situation now, we need to start looking for federal sources, state resources that we can do something to help our local community and our people. I read today in the Stuart News that the county has $28 million to start parsing out for various economic relief for various people and businesses and things of that nature. We need to be extremely active in that and find out where we can participate in that. And we should have been doing this months ago so that we can be right in the forefront, making sure our people are being taken care of.
Okay, very good. Let's stick with this general topic, and Mr. Galante, you can go first on this one. Let's talk about the discharges. Obviously a major issue in the city of Stuart for a long time. Has the city been forceful enough on this issue in dealing with maybe other government agencies, the Corps of Engineers? What else can the city do? What else should the city have been doing? And what would you do as a city commissioner to move the needle?
My view on that is you have to cooperate with the forces that are out there right now that have proven themselves to be effective, and we're all allies in that. I mean, we need, for instance, we've got so many different groups that are pro-river, River Kids, we've got the River Coalition. We need to galvanize them more so that we can get them politically active. We need to bring about more cooperation and discussion with our federal people. That is Congressman Mast. We need to look to Toby Oberdorf, who has a degree in marine engineering. We are in the right place right now and have the right people in office that we can really benefit from that. And we need to meet more often. We need to start strategizing together. We need to start saying, okay, what can we do? How can we share the burden? I was not a proponent, will not be a proponent of suing the Army Corps of Engineers. That, I think, is bringing coal to Newcastle. That is about a $1.5 million lawsuit that'll take about 3.5 to 4 years to prosecute if you don't get dismissed before that. Now, I did those type of prosecutions. I did those type of defenses of the Army Corps of Engineers. So I know what I'm talking about. I've been there. I've done that. And it's an extremely expensive proposition. And I don't, and I understand frustration on the parts of people, but you got to pick the appropriate enemy, and you got to take the appropriate action against that person. Although I don't consider the Corps to be my enemy. They just don't understand. I think the greater aspect of dealing with the Corps would be to deal with them on an administrative level, because that's where they make their rules and their regulations. And where we can, you get the congressmen and the various people that are writing the laws for them and dictating what they do and they cannot do, to write the laws so there's openings there for us to do something about it. Very recently, for instance, the governor just signed a law, the Clean Waterways Act. There's things in that bill which I think our city can use right away, and that is, for instance, stormwater runoff. If you recall, we had no, our river was looking really wonderful. There was no bacteria in our river at that particular point in time. And then we had 6 inches of rain. And next thing you know, the Department of Health is saying it's unsafe even to go to the sandbar because of the amount of bacteria level. Well, that didn't come from the lake. That came from septic runoff and other septic tanks and other types of runoff. And we need to get on that. And this new act gives us the ability to start there. There's criticism of that particular act, Clean Waterway Act. But it's a start. And again, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You keep working at it, you keep perfecting it. And over time, you wind up with a really good, valuable weapon that can make a difference for the city and who to pound, how to pound, and how to get it done.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Matheson, let's throw the question to you. Has the city done enough? What more could the city do? What more would you do?
There will never be enough done. But I've finished my campaign promise, or lived up to it, on speaking up about our river issues year round. And to quote our Congressman Brian Mast, who's been a champion of this, he will always reserve the right to litigate to protect the residents' health and safety and welfare of his district. And I reserve that same right. You know, if we want to start and talk about rain runoff, we've got decades and decades of legacy muck from multiple generations of discharges coming out of Lake Okeechobee. So, you know, with my environmental biology background, that local runoff stirs up all that legacy muck, which is loaded with phosphorus and nitrogen. And, you know, that's phase two. Phase one is stopping the discharges. Phase two is cleaning up that legacy muck. And I've spoken to Lieutenant Colonel Polk of the Army Corps of Engineers, Brian Mast, and Jackie Thurlow-Lippisch all about this. And we're all in agreement. And the county has a long-term plan to seek that out of removing of the legacy muck. But if you want to start at what the city has done so far since I've been elected, you know, my first month or so in office, I and my fellow commissioners stopped the use of Roundup or glyphosate, a toxic herbicide, on all city properties and parks. After that, we encouraged and worked with the county and funded ourselves, and we're successful at getting the county to vote for it as well, the research of endangered species that are endemic to our river by Dr. Grant Gilmore. Those species, if he can prove federally that those are endangered species, and they're found almost exclusively in our St. Lucie River and some in the Loxahatchee. There are none in the Caloosahatchee and there are none in the Everglades. If he can prove those species and get them on the Endangered Species Act, we'd have strong ammunition in federal court to be granted the same protections that Everglades National Park does. Right now, the language has shifted, just touching on Everglades National Park. Now the Corps and the district are acknowledging the fact that the St. Lucie Estuary and the Caloosahatchee Estuary are the northern Everglades. So we have made a lot of progress. But again, as everyone knows, I raised the fact of potential litigation against the Corps. I did that because of their proposed management of the lake to enter the wet season at 12.5 feet. Let's look at the facts, though. That got me in the room to talk with the colonel. That got my name known so that when I approach and speak at a South Florida Water Management District meeting, everyone knows that the Stuart Commission voted unanimously to hold the line, something we have never done in the past. But we showed that we're willing to hold the line and go to great lengths. Our discussions of our lawsuit were never going to go millions and millions of dollars. There was always going to be a budget cap on that. But I did learn something. I learned that's hard to put a cap when you're an elected official at a public meeting and you're discussing potential litigation of how much you might be willing to spend on a lawsuit. The lawsuit we were seeking would have been an injunctive lawsuit for this spring, 2020 spring, to encourage them to manage the lake lower, as they did in 2019. In 2019, we entered the wet season with a lake height of 10.8 feet. But again, I'm going to say it worked. It worked maybe with Mother Nature's help, but City of Stuart speaking up certainly helped. Connections were made. I talk and email with Lieutenant Colonel Polk on, a bi-monthly basis or weekly basis, and in communication with board members on the South Florida Water Management District. What else spawned out of that lawsuit was my fellow commissioners looked at my passion and desire and voted me the ability to speak on behalf of the City of Stuart at district meetings and at Corps' LOSUM PDT meetings, which is an integral part of lake management and South Florida water management in the next few years or the next decade, if we look at how LORS 08 lasted as long as it did. But what else came of that lawsuit? Well, in the end, we didn't file a lawsuit. We didn't spend a dime. And the lake got as low as 11.01 feet before the start of the wet season. And right after that, we had record rain. And you know what? That extra capacity that we fought and spoke for gave Lake Okeechobee the ability to absorb that water. Right now, the lake sits 12.5 feet. As I said, the 30-year historical average for today is 13.5 feet. That doesn't make me happy, but it makes me a lot more confident in our situation if we would have a lake that's a foot higher. We have a toxic bomb sitting in the lake, as we probably will every summer. There's a big algae bloom in the lake, and it's tested positive for microcystin. But anything we can do to manage the lake properly year round so that there is extra capacity when the summer rains come, and they will come, is better for City of Stuart residents, because that's less chance of discharges. Another thing the City of Stuart has done, which should have been done decades ago, we now have a full-time river advocate. I spoke with him today. I speak with him on a weekly basis about City of Stuart drafting on our letterhead written comments to the Corps meetings and the South Florida Water Management District meetings. So he and I attend now virtually numerous meetings and interact with counties on the West Coast and frequently with Martin County and their environmental staff to solve this problem. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to solve it by myself. I will happily work with anyone, Congressman Mass, Governor DeSantis, all the district governing board members, and the Corps. But how much is too much? At a time, you do have to draw the line to protect the health and safety of your residents. And I'm very thankful that we didn't file litigation. But at some point, a line has to be drawn. Thank you.
Okay, good. Let's stick with Merritt on this one. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. As alluded to earlier, COVID-19 is really sort of smacking some businesses in downtown Stuart. You've got the possibility of empty storefronts. It might raise the specter of what the city of Stuart looked like decades ago when it was a ghost town. It's hard to imagine it was like that, given how vibrant it is today. What can city commissioners do to help the businesses that are in downtown Stuart that are struggling with the impact of COVID-19?
We have to look at all options on this issue. I own a building downtown. COVID-19 is it's currently vacant. It'll probably be currently vacant for a long time into the future due to the pandemic. Talking about the CARES Act, that's only distributed to counties. And we're very thankful that the county got it. George Stokas, the county administrator, is working on a program to help distribute that to business owners. Our staff, and we raised that at our last city commission meeting, we're going to work on advertising that to our local businesses, put it on our website, and spread that word and encourage them to apply for funding, federal funding from the CARES Act. City of Stuart does not have the authority to distribute that funding. Moving into the future, this started 2 years ago or so, but city has budgeted to hire an employee who will be our grant writer to seek out grants. Historically, we've leaned on the county and typically paid an administrative fee for that service. I'm all in favor of grants. A lot of these are matching grants, but federal dollars, state dollars for that is incredibly important. And over the span of 2 years, softly massaging our budget, and we're working with our city manager to make the logical decision to have a city employee look for grants, which we're going to be looking for any grants out there due to this pandemic. Furthermore, what we've done, our information office has already done video campaigns highlighting videos in downtown Stuart and throughout the city, highlighting their safety features and what they've changed. It's called the We're Ready campaign. It's been spread around Facebook, on YouTube. We want to do everything possible to help our local businesses. We were the first, and the county followed our lead, to open up downtown parking spaces to give them the ability to put tents up. No fees for any of that. We did do, the tents had to be set up properly, but we weren't charging businesses to give them more square footage to properly socially distance and encourage customers to come to their shops. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Galante, what do we do for businesses that are struggling due to COVID-19?
Well, as I said earlier, the CARES Act was known several weeks ago, months ago. And the anticipated distribution of those funds should have been something that the city was working on, not that they're handing out the money, but the people in the city that are doing the work, that own the businesses, they should have already been schooled in how to apply, what they can apply for, and what the applications look like. You don't wait to the last minute to do this. You plan it beforehand so your people are first online and they have the best applications, which guarantee that they're going to get, if they're going to get money, they're more likely to get money. Additionally, like with a grant writer, this city has I think, $21 million budget, maybe a little bit more. There should be a grant writer on staff, at least part-time, because a lot of the money that we've have obtained over a period of time has come through grants. And since you get large chunks of money from those grants that are written by people who are really good at writing whatever the bureaucrats want to see, so they will give you the money, we need somebody on staff, not just like, oh, golly, we just figured out we need something like that. No, this is part of doing business in this century, and you need to adjust to it, and you need to appreciate that these are the way things are done, and this is how they're done. And coming to this conclusion now, I'm glad, better late than never. But the point is, this should have been done months ago. And as far as a grant writer, years ago, should have been on staff for the entire time. As far as the downtown businesses, I remember what Stuart looked like when we had the post office arcade, and FP&L was there. And then there was a guy that sold soup and made bread. That was downtown. So I know what it looked like. And I don't ever want to see it go back to that, which is what I'm saying. We need to plan for 2040, not tomorrow, not for the next week or month down, or a year or two down the lane. We need to know what we're going to be looking like in 20 years, so that we can, like Joan Jefferson, we are here today and have this vibrant city because somebody had a vision going down 20 years. So we need that now, not reaction, but planning, vision, and pushing forward, because this is our city, and we want our city to remain for our children, and other people might come here because they love this particular town. So I think we should have been on this months ago, not just coming to it now because somebody says we're getting money at some point in time. No, this all deals with planning. This is how business works. Business works on planning. You have to know and anticipate things. As a trial lawyer, I have to anticipate things that are going on in a case that I'm not quite sure they're going to happen, but I'm planned for them in case they do happen. As a matter of fact, you have to be prepared well enough prepared that I can take your case, the guy against me, and try his case because I know that case as well as I know my own. That's how you be prepared for the city. And that's what I would bring to this particular administration if I was elected.
Okay, good. Let's move on now. Earlier, Mr. Galante, we'll start with you. Earlier, you mentioned some new development proposals in the city of Stuart with higher densities than maybe people are used to. Tell us what the term smart growth means to you.
All right. Smart growth goes along with that vision. You can't have smart growth unless you know what you want to look like 20 years down the line. So what do we want Stuart to look like? You want it to look like Broward? Do you see the thing that's on US 1 right now, the 4-story concrete monstrosity? That's not Stuart. That'll never be Stuart. And it's right next to some poor guy's single family home. That's wrong. That's not Stuart. That'll never be Stuart. So in my opinion, that's not smart growth. When you're talking about a 324 unit building in the middle of a subdivision of single family homes, there's an awful lot of things to balance there, because I know we need affordable housing. There's all kinds of things that we need in the future. But the point is, do you want to go to that extreme now without taking a look at other things that might be available to us? Right now, let me see, we have Harbor Grove, which is 324, Spring Tree, which is 270, Savona, which is 183, Savannah Place, which is 280, Watermark, which is 280, Bridgewater, which by the way was just passed yesterday, it's going to be in downtown Stuart, which is 212 units, 4 stories tall or 3 stories tall, is bigger than anything around it. Anything around it. It's going to be the eyesore. At least I think it's going to be the eyesore. And we need to address these type of things, and not just, if the land's there, let's stick it there. That's not the way to build a town which is consistent with the old Southern flavor we have here in Florida, the Florida look we have, the community that we all come to know and love. I mean, we all go to the Christmas parade and we all show up and we all wave and we all know the people in the parade. It's because we are a small, beautiful town. I want to keep that small, beautiful town. I know we got to grow, but how we grow, where we grow, how dense we are, these are things within the commission's control. And the commission, if it needs to revisit the comprehensive plan, needs to revisit the comprehension plan so that we don't lose that charm, which is Stuart. I moved up here from Miami and Broward because I didn't want to live there. And I don't want to change into that. If there's anything I can do to stop that, I'm going to try.
Okay, very good. Merritt, what does smart growth mean?
Well, can I just touch on one thing? Our city's budget is $27 million, and 20 months in office, I've shifted employment to one full-time river advocate, and we are, as again, I reiterate, we have discussions with a grant writer, a full-time grant writer for City of Stuart staff. And prior to that, we work with the county, and they charge an administrative fee on their grant writers. Anyway, the debate between, say, no growth and pro-growth is something that I was born into. And any of those who know me personally, and many people were fearful that when I got elected, I would be a strict no-growth opponent. I've been very vocal. I'm a strong environmentalist. I also believe in capitalism and land rights, property rights. City of Stuart has a comprehensive plan, and we have a land development code. And a property owner can build in the City of Stuart a 4-story building if it fits the zoning. To gear City of Stuart towards smart growth, the city embraces what's called a PUD process. Any large-scale projects that are going to be built, if they want to deviate from our land development code, and again, we do not deviate from our comprehensive plan. I've sent many people, many developers out of a meeting when they've come up to me and said, yeah, I'd like to build something here, but it's got to be 5 stories to make it work. I've smiled and said, nice talking to you, but it's not going to happen with me on watch. But we have a 4-story height limit. So again, to gear towards smart growth in the city, if applicants want to deviate from our code, they can apply for a PUD process. Depending where that location is, if it's in the CRA, they go before volunteers of the CRB board. After discussing with staff their project, they go before the CRB board. These are all city resident volunteers who discuss in a public meeting and review the process. That's one option where the public gets a bite at the apple. The other board, which I served on, is the Lpa Board. Again, a volunteer board, which is land outside of the CRA. Those volunteers review the same information for that development packet and discuss that at a public meeting. I haven't seen any project come forward where commission or those boards haven't demanded proof that the applicant has shown meetings with the surrounding residents. Now, again, not all residents are happy, but as a Stuart City Commissioner and those board members, we have to take all the facts and issues in on accountability when we're looking at a project. Every project is treated differently. After it passes that board, with that board's recommendation, it goes on to the City Commission for 2 readings. Each of those readings is a public reading, and residents who have an interest can come and speak. If we want to break down some of the projects and why this process happens, it's because not everything can fit into one box. Parcels are different. Let's take, for example, the 4-story building on the east side of US 1 north of the bridge, the wooden structure. First of all, I'd like to clear the record. I voted against that building. I voted against it because it's impacting wetlands. It was impacting Corps wetlands. But again, the Stuart Commission's a 5-member board. It did pass, but I was the sole person to vote against it. Other projects like Bridgeview, which I voted for, it's going to be just north of the Veterans Memorial Bridge on the east side. I voted against City of Stuart for annexing that property. I didn't believe that was the right decision. but we did annex the property. I was the dissenting vote on that vote. But I take each issue new and always look at it with an open mind. So if you look at Bridgeview, what was already approved there was a 3-story commercial building by the county. And the setback from the northern residents of Riverland, which are county residents, would have been a little over 50 feet. Bridgeview's setback from their building, although it is 4 stories, is 96-foot setback from Riverland's property line. And Riverland, at the meeting, sent a letter of support for the Bridgeview project. Another thing to look at is if that property is going to get developed, because the only way, if you believe in capitalism and property owner rights, to prevent that property from getting developed, and it could be done without coming to any board if it follows the code. The way to prevent that is to buy the land. And I'm sorry, I was not in favor of a tax increase to purchase land like that. And I can't do that on every little parcel to preserve the city of Stuart. But some of the factors I do look at are the 8-foot sidewalk that's going to be around the perimeter of that project that they're going to construct, or the fact that that property, our code requires 30% upland preservation, and Bridgeview is going to preserve 67% of that upland. And to further go, when I'm a commissioner and I get to see a project like that come before me, I can make conditions on the project. And I was the only one that made a condition, but my condition was that they have to follow the same PAMP, Preserve Area Management Plan, that they'll be doing, and it'll be in the PUD documents for the wetland and for the wetland buffer surrounding the wetland. They have to follow the same management as City of Stuart does with our parks and our city, where we stop the use of toxic herbicides like Roundup or glyphosate. You know, it's not City of Stuart's authority to reach different private owners unless they're asking for some slight variances. So that's smart growth. It's considering what is the best for City of Stuart residents, what is the best for the environment, what is the best financially, and what is the best, for housing needs and job creation. For years, the City of Stuart was focused more on commercial and less on residential. I heard that from residents all over town. And so, after speaking to those residents, our financial director, city manager, and in open debates with our city commissioners, we've trended more towards housing because that was the need of the city. That, in my mind, is smart growth. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Merritt, we'll stick with you. This is a related question. The issue of affordable housing came up earlier. In your view, does the city lack affordable housing? If so, what can city officials do about it?
Yes, we do. The entire nation lacks affordable housing. And this, again, is something that should have been done years ago, but I'm 21 months into office. We've adjusted our comp plan. The first step was to break down affordable housing. That's a common term that can be tossed around a lot, but it can be broke down, and we relate it to the area median income. And we've broken it down to workforce housing. One of the projects we approved is going to have workforce housing units in the future. Those are people that make 80 to 100% of the area median income. As you go down from there, and we put that language in our comp plan, so it'll be cemented moving forward. As you go down from there, the City of Stuart, we have a hard time working with just developers and mandating that. Florida law prevents us from putting strict enough regulations on developers for us to require them to put affordable housing in a project for variances. We can do little things like density bonus and stuff like that. But one of the big properties we are in talks with is with the Housing Solutions Council. They're a nonprofit here, and there's other nonprofits that may be interested, is a property on US 1 near Haney Creek that for years, the county, as well as the city who owns it, has tried to lease out. That's been unsuccessful, and that is an option that the city has been looking at in the past 6 months or so to increase affordable housing. And that affordable housing would be less than workforce housing. But, you know, affordable housing can be broken down into different categories as you go down from your area median income. And, you know, that was step one. We didn't even have those definitions in our comp plan. Now we do. We've had multiple housing workshops, and, you know, unfortunately, I've learned, and I knew this from the outside, stuff does not happen fast in government. That's why I decided, you know, in my mid-30s to get involved, get active, and speak up on our river issues, on our housing, and make a difference.
Okay, good. Mr. Galante, affordable housing. Does Stuart need more?
What little we have, of course we need more. We have a number of people that come into this town and work. I think the number's around 21,000 car, or I don't know. It was the Office of Economic Development talked about 21,000 visits or people coming into the city to go to work down the US 1 corridor that is part of the, I guess, the spine of Stuart. So yeah, we need affordable housing. I would love to see people be given the opportunity, either through SHIP grants or whatever, to become stakeholders and own a home. Simply because I think there's great pride in ownership, and in that, you know, the people are now part of the community, as opposed to just providing them the opportunity to rent. Because even the rents that they're talking about are anywhere between $900 and $1,400, depending upon what the category might be, whether it be affordable housing, workers' housing, or whatever. Because of the formula that Mr. Matheson was talking about, it's important for us to provide for people like that through government action, wherever and wherever possible, so that they can also participate in a better lifestyle. This is an issue that I think is pretty important to a lot of people, and I think it would certainly. How's this? Wouldn't it help our downtown businesses if we had more population to come downtown, spend their money, go to dinner, buy ice cream, buy a dress, buy shoes at Tootsie's, which, by the way, is going out of business. You know, so this is all a plus, plus, plus. And I agree. We need more affordable housing.
Okay, good. Mr. Galante, we're going to start with you on this question. Recently, city officials have heard concerns about racism and police-community relations, and the city has moved to create an informal board to consider those concerns. Is that enough? Has the city done enough to address these issues? And if not, what more could be done?
All right. The Stuart Police, Monday night's meeting, there were a number of community people from the East Stuart that came in and applauded our police. Stuart, unlike a whole lot of other places, has a very active community involvement with our police. They go out and deliver turkeys, dinners, Christmas presents, big brother, big sister. They paint houses. They do all kinds of things. So they are in the community. And I think it'd be wrong for us to create a problem here that doesn't exist. How do we improve our relations with them, within the community? Well, I'll give you, for instance, I know that the chief tried to implement a different way of hand-to-hand combat, one which would reduce the incidence of serious injury or death to somebody because of the holes and different things like that are being used. Regrettably, although there's a little bit of money set aside for them to create a combat place for the police to learn these new skills, the police aren't given the time to go in and learn these new skills. So shame on the city. I mean, these guys are trying to do the best damn job they can. I mean, have you ever read our police's vision and mission? It's all about community. It's all about being transparent. It's all about being respected by the community. It's all about the community looking to them and them looking to the community and them being involved. I was at the NAACP food bank handout a few weeks ago, and there's a great police presence. And there was nothing but a wonderful community event going on there, and nobody was resentful of the police or anything else. If anything, it was very jovial and everybody's part of the community. I mean, you don't get that in a lot of places. And I think that's because Stuart tends to be a little bit more unique in a way it approaches things and how they get involved in the community, the police officers themselves. So, you know, is a community relations board important? I would agree if we could put a commissioner and a police officer on it, that maybe it might be valuable, because I think a commissioner needs to know what's going on in the community, and a police officer needs to be there to be ears to hear what's going on, because there might be things that come up during these discussions that need to be brought back to the police. But I'm very proud of our police officers, very proud of our police officers. I think they're doing a hell of a good job. But anything can be improved. And even though we have a good relationship, it doesn't mean it can't go sour, can't go sideways. So it's got to be something you work on constantly. And I think that improvement should be encouraged by the commission, and that encouragement should come to the chief and to the officers. I mean, how about the commissioners going on rides with the police officers? I want to see what you do at night. I want to be out there. I'm going to go out the whole night with you to see what it's like when you're driving around. Now I get to see through their eyes what the community's like. So it isn't just the police. It's got to start at the very, very top. I know our city manager is the former chief of police, so he knows pretty much what's going on. But as far as the commissioners, because when I put my name in to run, I asked the police, can I go ride with you guys? I'll go out in the middle of the night. Let's go see what's going on. They can't because of the political situation that's going on here in the election. But they were surprised because nobody had ever asked to do that. And I'm thinking to myself, how could you, if you're going to be a leader in the community, how could you not ask to go out with your own police force and see what they confront, what they look like, how they treat different interactions with the police? My son's a police officer up in Chattanooga. He is trained. He is very good at de-escalating situations with words as opposed to force, being understanding with people as opposed to being confrontational in their face. And as far as I know, our police are on that same vibe and that same mindset, which is important, and that needs to be encouraged and that needs to be developed even more. So I don't necessarily know that I pounded all your particular points, but that's my feeling on the community relations.
Okay, good. Merritt, police community relations, is it an issue? Has the city done enough?
First, Gil, you can never do enough. This is a job that never ends. But that board is absolutely necessary. It's not under the umbrella of the city. It was created specifically for that reason from discussions with our commission, because there's a lack of trust with a lot of the East Stewart community of government. I've been over to many meetings over there at the 10th Street Community Center, and I've felt that lack of trust. So we wanted this board, to give a real honest description of their thoughts and feelings. The board is going to be up to this decision whether or not Commissioner Bruner actively serves on the board, has a voting role, partakes, or what. We want to give it up to the board. Also, they're going to have that same decision on officers. But let me just go back and say we have an incredible police force. It's something with community relations that our city manager, David Dias, focused on and became an amazing chief of police, and he passed that on to Chief Tuminelli. Over the years, I've sat there and led teams alongside our officers that are out there in plain clothes painting houses in East Stewart. I didn't get to do it this year because of the pandemic, but last year and the year before, our officers, as well as other commissioners and our city manager, sat there and painted houses. As Thelma Washington said, who is a leader in the East Stewart community, runs the East Stewart Partnership, who I attended many of those meetings, and is a director at the Gertrude Walden Daycare Center. They painted over 78 houses in the past few years in our Brush for Kindness, and I was there alongside them doing that. I want to tell you something else about our officers. My background is fishing, charter fishing, specifically blue marlin and big game fish in the Bahamas. I grew up going to the Bahamas. A lot of Stuart residents have a true love and passion for the Bahamas. When I saw the devastation and destruction Hurricane Dorian hit, I wanted to do something that wasn't going to affect our city's budget, because that required a commission vote. But I wanted to do something right away. Chief Tuminelli offered to open up the public safety complex, and Officer Brian Bossio, Sergeant Brian Bossio, spent numerous days driving me around. I'm legally blind and do not drive a car. We drove around, we sought out a large U-Haul truck that was donated for our purposes of accepting donations at the public safety complex, so we could donate those to the Abaconians. We filled up the largest U-Haul truck available and many, many police and fire pickup trucks. And the officers at Stuart PD were there volunteering their time, as well as other commissioners. But this was a donation that I wanted to spearhead because of the islands. You know, Hopetown is our sister city. And after those donations, I continued my volunteer effort and traveled over there to help boots on the ground with 25 United. But I've ridden with many officers, Officer Joe Hogan, Chris Rudiger. We have great police. But for me to say we don't need a community relations board would mean that I'm not doing my job. That board was created specifically in a design to break down barriers of mistrust between that community and our local government. So thank you.
Okay. Beginning to run a little short on time, and I believe my colleague Larry Reisman has a couple questions. I'll turn it over to Larry here.
Thanks, Gil. I just have 3 with the questions that I'd like you to answer within 1 sentence each. I guess we'll start with Merritt on the first one. 1 sentence, please. What is your vision for the Sailfish ball fields? 1 sentence.
Preserving public land. I'm a politician, Larry, all right?
Go ahead.
You know, I have a deep history in my family of preserving public land. Now, am I going to sit here and say there'll always be baseball fields? No. But I want to preserve taxpayer-owned land that has a history and people have a connection to in the city of Stuart.
Okay, let me ask you, let me just be more specific. When you say public-owned lands, I want to pin you down on this. Will they be land? I mean, you could put a health department up there, you know, or some other building. Will it be recreation land, or are you not, or can you not commit to that right now?
In my mind, right now, it most likely would. But, you know, when I saw this issue happening, this was a tough one for me. I walked in at the bottom of the 9th inning, so to say, on that vote, and I was a brand new freshman commissioner. And I hadn't had the time to cement my feet as a commissioner. And I looked at that as the vote was almost inevitable, that I just had to pick between one of 2 developments going there. And, you know, over talking.
Okay, I'm looking at it. So that's
Yes, sir.
good, Merritt. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
your question is
Ed?
play ball.
1 sentence on. Okay, thank you. Okay, Ed, we'll start with you on this one. So you have the city hall on, you have the city hall on the waterfront. What is your vision for that piece of property? 1 sentence, please.
Sell it.
Okay, Merritt?
Preserving public land. Again, you know, City Hall needs improvement. But I don't believe that those office views should be just for director levels to see the water. There's a lot of other benefits and quality of life improvements that could be done with that land.
Thank you. Okay, so Merritt, I'm going to give you this one. they could be just bullet items, but we don't have time for explanations, unfortunately. But if you could give me, when you're considering an annexation, okay, as you have before, when you're considering an annexation, I'd like you to just state 3 metrics that you would use to determine whether an annexation is worth doing or not. So 3 metrics that you take into consideration.
Okay. Stuart has never involuntarily annexed anyone. They're all applied for annexations. The 3 metrics I would look for: who's providing utilities? Stuart does provide utilities outside of its city limits. Will it level up City of Stuart's jurisdiction? And what do the surrounding property owners feel about that?
Thank you. Ed?
Yeah. You know, you got to say, what's the value to the community? What's its use to the community? Is it going to add to the community, take away from the community? What value does it bring? And also, is this cost benefit? What's it going to cost us when we annex it? More police, more infrastructure, more fire, more roads, more obligations. I mean, are we buying a pig in a poke? I mean, all these things have to be looked at, evaluated, and weighed one way or the other, and say, thank you so much, but we don't want to buy that.
Okay, thank you. Bill, anything else?
No, let's give the, I appreciate that, Larry. Let's give the candidates here an opportunity to sort of wrap it up. If there's anything that we didn't get to, sort of closing statements. We'll start with Merritt. Why don't you go first?
Well, you know, closing quick statement. There's no one easy time to dedicate your life to your community. But when I started raising a family here in my hometown, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I made an active, conscious decision to get involved with the City of Stuart. I did that years before I decided to run for office. I'm not one to sit on the sidelines. I speak up when I see an issue. And when I put my heart and soul into something, I'm all in. I proved that during my first campaign, and I hope to prove it again. You know, I bring honesty, transparency, commitment, experience, and proven dedication for our river and our quality of life to the City of Stuart Commission. So I'm asking for everyone out there up on August 18th to vote to re-elect me, Merritt Matheson, as your City of Stuart Commissioner, so I can continue my job working for you. And thank you to the TCPalm editorial board. I appreciate the chance to talk.
Okay, great. Mr. Galante, closing statement.
Yes. The time that we are in right now requires somebody who has a business background, not just a business background, but the appropriate education to understand complicated financial issues. You need somebody who's also, I think, trained as a lawyer, who can sit down and read the laws, write laws, and when these laws have been written, to sit down and read them critically, so that we know what's being done, what's being said is appropriate to the time and appropriate to what's been decided. In this particular instance, I am more than qualified. I have not just a family that I've grown up here, but I've also built buildings. I'm in business right now. I'm downtown Stuart. You can see me a little bit later on walking around downtown. This is my home. This is the home I'm going to be in, and I will die in this particular city. I love it, and I want to focus myself on this. And I don't do a lot of different things, but what I do when I take up something is I am completely committed to it. And those who know me know that I get very focused and I get very knowledgeable of whatever I'm getting into, regardless. I mean, even years ago when I took up soccer, not to play it myself because I'm not that skilled, but I learned everything. I became a FIFA referee. I became licensed to teach soccer, took care of the kids, took first aid courses so you can spot heat, like stroke, things like, it's like all the little minutia that goes along with being good at what you choose to do. That's how I am. That's who I am. I choose to become a city commissioner. I'll be the best damn city commissioner this city's had in a long, long time. And I can promise you this, I will represent the people as best as they can be represented. I will keep my mouth shut and listen, mostly because you learn by listening, not by talking. You learn more by asking questions because there's information you need to learn. And then taking care of the business of the people that I'm there to represent. This is my town, and I hope you vote for me on August 18th because you need a representative like me. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, that wraps up our interview here today. I want to thank both of our candidates, Merritt Matheson and Edward Galante, for being here. For those of you who caught only part of the interview and would like to see the whole thing, you can go to our social media pages where you can watch it from beginning to end. Also, don't forget to visit tcpalm.com/elections, your one-stop shop for all things elections on the Treasure Coast for the August 18th primary and then beyond. We've got the questionnaires from the candidates. We've got stories. We've got the videos. We've got it all. And that's where you want to go if you want to know about the elections. Again, thanks to our participants. Thanks to Larry Reisman, my fellow editorial board members. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Ed, Merritt. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.